I also just love the freemium model so much. Well, I mean, not necessarily freemium in the sense that we look at it like an iPhone app, where you get a product and then you got to pay for all the additional bits to it. But where if you've got people using a system like Smart Foods for 3 months, and they start to integrate it into the way that they manage their business, then after 3 months, they got to try and go on without this thing.
Well, that's exactly. Yeah, and that's Taylor. That's exactly the point, because I use it intimately for our business. So I'd be dead without it, and that's the rare advantage we have here with the SaaS product, is that we actually have a laboratory where we can test and see the product, whereas most tech startups or products are based on an idea, and you need the first couple of clients to validate it. We validate it. This thing works, and so we want to create that and create that value for the owners, so that they can't live without it. And we're pretty sure we can get there, but we got to get them over the line first. So yeah, I'm happy. It's not about making money. You're not going to make money with 3 clients or 5 clients. You know, this is not a consulting gig. This is well, this works. We can sign up people digitally and scale it globally, because there's online delivery and restaurants. Yeah, it's like a $2 trillion industry globally, as you know. So that's the big tuna to catch here. And so we brought it down. The first, critical point is to get external validation. So it's not about making 1 rand of revenue. It's just about that customer going, yeah, this is elite. I need to use this. What's the number? Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely on the freemium thinking. Awesome. But that's not going to be a good business model. You have to then create value. You can't sell advertising or some of the other successful free models. So we have to eventually create value, and we think we can. But to get this, the most important thing is validation. So we need to get them over the line. Yeah. So Dan, I think that's a great shout. Drop that. Any links can go, and we can do a 3-month freemium.
Yeah. Because we jumped straight onto stereo and Smarty.
Yeah.
But so Taylor obviously knows me well, but maybe I can just give you a bit of an angle of why I'm just think Callan's so interesting, and it relates to me. So my brother Sam grew up with Callan. So I don't have a memory of meeting Callan because I was that young. Yeah. And we haven't chatted in like, I don't know, decades.
Long time, dude. So
I was like a small child. And the cool thing is, so Taylor knows I did the CFA program and stuff. I didn't quite end up in the industry now. And Callan's gone through the whole of asset management, did that. He's got a really interesting story of how he was studying industry in a specific company. And that gave him, I guess, the lens for how he saw this opportunity right next door. And that's how Smart Foods and all of the other things we just spoke about exist. So
sick. That's awesome. And I think it's a good little segue there as well. So, Callan, if you can explain a bit more of that for me, give me context, like tune me about yourself, how you got into Smart Foods, how you got into Smarty, what led your brain there, what led your team in that direction.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. I think it is quite a crazy story, so bear with me. Yeah, sometimes I have to pinch myself as to how I'm sitting here and doing this. I'm definitely alive and loving it, but let's go back a bit. So I'm previously from the finance industry, and I was an equity analyst. And my job was to research the food and hospitality sectors. So I got to understand these businesses. And I think the first important point was, it turns out that these businesses had a really good return on capital. They were high quality businesses, and that's based on the, certain dynamics inside the industry, like they've got bargaining power over customers. They've got pricing power. They don't spend a hell of a lot of capex, so they could create good returns on capital. So in my previous firm, we identified this was a good sector to invest in, and this is looking over many cycles over a long period of time. So that was an interesting point. I then found a company called Chipotle Mexican Grill in the States, which has just been a raging success, and we look up to it daily. And we still, and you know, we'll always look up to them and what they've achieved. But they've really brought this, healthy, quality, fast food game to the market in the States. And the food is fresh. You know, you build your own meal. The branding is cool and it's relatable to the next generation and the younger generation. And they've done an exceptional job, and that really resonated with me. From a financial point of view, they were a great company, and we made our first investments into that company. But I also then went home after work and kind of was like, you know, trying to keep a healthy lifestyle, managing everything, long hours, you know, not living at home when mom's cooking meals. You know, you struggle to get a decent meal. And I just found there weren't a lot of options in South Africa. And so I could see that this sort of wellness-focused fast food movement was happening overseas, but it hadn't really taken off yet in South Africa. So that was an interesting realization that I'd come to. The rest of the story I could never predict, and it was a complete coincidence and quite opportunistic and quite a lot of luck involved. It turns out that someone who was passionate about Mexican food, who's a chef, went to Mexico and America and spent 2 years creating these recipes to bring a Chipotle-style restaurant chain to South Africa. This individual, Mark Rutherford, committed his life to this and was passionate about the very detail, the salsas, the way that we cook the pinto beans, the rice, the way the burritos are toasted. He spent 2 years, him and his wife, and they brought this concept called tortilla modern Mexican to Cape Town. And it just so happened that tortilla store had opened up 100 meters from our office in town. And so I'll never forget the day one of our colleagues came running into the office and said, "Carl, you won't believe it. There's like a Chipotle style business right up the road. You got to get out." By that stage, I was like Mr. Chipotle because I'd recommended the investment and I knew all about the company, and it was like my favorite company. So I raced over to go check out Tortilla, and he'd done an exceptional job. I was really impressed and bought a burrito. And yeah, one thing to another. I became a regular customer and befriended their staff, and I'd seen, you know, he'd done a really, really good job. But I kind of always left that experience with a bit of excitement inside. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I wonder if we could scale this. You know, I really understood the South African dynamic. There was a big opportunity to have multiple chain restaurant in South Africa. You know, you see Nando's, you see 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐫. These chains have over 300 stores, and it's a similar price point. So yes, it doesn't talk to the entire market of South Africa, which other brands like KFC would have, but there was enough for a decent sized business. And I understood that. But you know how these things go. You put your tail between your legs and you go back to work. I just finished my CFA and I was loving my job, and I was on this career, you know, path. And so, you know, go back to work, and yeah, it was quite crazy. I actually then, something I couldn't have predicted. We were supposed to go on holiday with my now wife and our best friends, and I actually had to not go with my wife, and actually pitched up at the holiday a few days later because I had to finish something at work that I hadn't finished towards the end of the year. It was a tough sell. I'm happy to say that we are still married, so we managed. But I had to join everyone a few days later on holiday. So I was at the office. It was deep in December. It was around like the 20th of December. No one else was in the office, and I was finishing my my project, and I thought, let me go get a burrito and take a break. And I went down to buy a burrito as I'd done all year, and there was a sign on the door saying today's our last day of trade. And so by then I'd befriended the staff. I said, "Geez, guys, what's happening?" And unfortunately, Mark, the founder, was having a child, and his wife was British, and she wanted to have the child in the UK. And so he was trying to run the restaurant from the UK. And unfortunately, it wasn't working out. And this was really strange to me because I was a customer, and the queues were were solid every day and the food was really good. Yeah, sure, I could see a few things, you know, that weren't perfect, but it was a big surprise to me. It definitely wasn't a sales problem. And so I looked at the manager, her name was Melissa, I'll never forget her. She's very important in my journey. And I said, listen, Melissa, give me his email address. If I do something with Mark, are you guys able to stay working at Tortilla? Because I don't have a clue how to run this place, and you guys do. But I know we can't let this place close. And it turns out by Monday morning the next week, we bought a single store Mexican restaurant, and I rocked up at my holiday a few days late with this restaurant, and you know, under my name. And, that's really how the journey started. So super crazy. If I had went on the holiday on time, we would probably not even be sitting here. It's that crazy. So I think it's interesting though. I think what was in my favor was I'd done the work in the sector. I knew making this play, it wasn't like we were going down a sector that we didn't understand. And if we got it right, it needs to be economically viable. And I knew that intimately. I also knew the product and I knew what could happen. And then luckily we did a good deal. There was quite a low risk. It wasn't as if we were paying excessive money. So I liked the economics and I liked the opportunity. And I was in a position that we could do it after work. It wasn't a full time. It wasn't like I left my job straight away. You know, you always test the water with one foot. So we were able to do that and start the journey. So that's really how it all began.
That is so awesome, man. That is such an exciting story, and so like everything sounds serendipitous, you know.
Yeah.
And like, geez, you got to follow your passion there. And if you love burritos,
yeah. Yeah. Look, I guess that decision was quite easy because I still had my job and I was still, you know, loving work, and it was like a side gig. Again, my poor wife. This was just after I finished CFA, and those who've done CFA, Dan, you will know this. CFA while you're working is long hours, man. So, you know, it's 2 hours before you start work, and then at least 2-3 hours after work, and then the weekend is really where you do the big numbers. And I just finished, and now all of a sudden I was like, oh, by the way, I bought this business, and don't worry, I'm not leaving my job, but you know, I'm going to do things after hours. And it turned out I had like pretty similar hours with Tortilla, but I was just so excited to test what I'd learned in the listed equity space and see if we could, you know, if we knew what we were talking about. And it was a really low risk test. But the real decision was when we went full time. That was a much tougher decision.
Yeah. What happened? How did you get up to that point?
Yeah. So that's, you know, as I said, we wanted to test, right? So it was a low bet, a low size bet. We could test it pretty easily, and so we were able to fix the issue with the business. I think that was an important point. The issue wasn't the product. The issue was there were no systems and there was no management because the owner was living in the UK and he hadn't set up the structures. And that was something that I could fix given my background quite easily. You know, spreadsheet based, there was a little bit of control here and there, a few checks and balances. And that was something that when I learned that, I was like, cool, this is in my wheelhouse. We can attack this. I wasn't going to change the recipes. I mean, that's certainly not something that I need. You know, if that was the issue, then it was a non-starter. So it was important to identify that. And so we started the journey. You know, we fixed it. We got the margin was sitting at 30% GP margin. We got it up to 65% in a couple months. And all of a sudden you have a business because your revenues, you know, was there. And it was really the cost that was the issue. And then the other big thing was, given our background, we understood data was important and understanding your customer. And so we launched a loyalty program on the first day. And we saw a raging success and adoption from the customers of this loyalty program. Today, the loyalty program sits at over 50,000 members and is a fundamental part of our business and why we're able to do what we do. So that was a big decision and a big realization. And so I wrote in my chief investment officer. So him and I are still partners today. And we had the first year of Tortilla and it went really well. And so we kind of got to the end of the year and we looked at each other and we're like, well, we've now got a success business unit. Obviously the next gig now is to scale this. So we're like, well, we're going to need to get a good guy to scale this, because, you know, that's a whole different, you know, killer, and there's multiple sites. And so we knew that was important. So we started scratching around, looking for someone. By this stage, I become portfolio manager and like really happy at work and doing well and enjoying that side of things. But this is what was keeping me, you know, pumped up. This year project, it was really like inside of me, and like a deep purpose inside of me. And I knew I wanted to stay really close to it. And after a few unsuccessful attempts to find someone, Brendan, my partner, said, well, I've got an idea. Why don't you do it? And I looked at him, I was like, no, man, you're crazy. Like, you obviously not, you know, I'm doing like loving my job and there's bonuses and everything's going well. And he's like, just think about it, you know, just think about it, and let's come back. And again, Shane, my poor wife and I had to have a discussion and a chat, and it was a really tough decision. And ultimately it came down to, you know, there was a strong belief in the opportunity, and I felt that there was a lot I could learn about running a business and growing a business, in addition to accommodate or add to my existing knowledge that I'd learned, which would help me in the long run. And it just so happened at that stage, we didn't have kids, you know, we didn't have a mortgage. It just so happened that it was at a good time in our life. And I thought it was definitely risky, but I thought in the worst case scenario, we would have, you know, lost 2 years on my career, but I would have gained a hell of a lot of experience. And I always thought future employers would have looked favorably on the decision. And I still had my CFA, so that wasn't going anywhere. And so it was really important that those structural elements were in place. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have made the decision. But yeah, we eventually made the decision. And yeah, it's been 6 years, and yeah, we haven't looked back. So it's been super cool.
Epic story.
Man, that's inspiring, and I love a career switch too. It's so cool to, you know, to like, I mean, Dan and I as well, like, had gone over and both taught English overseas, and then gone back into business in very different fields, and just learning. Like, it's so cool that people can be dynamic enough, and the experience is so fulfilling, you know, when you actually get to do that. And if you've got the support of your partner too, like, yeah, nothing can screw it,
yeah, it's super exciting, and you guys are doing similar things. So yeah, big up to that.
Got to get to your level first, though, bro. You just got to go somewhere. Hey? And do you ever see yourself ever going back into? I mean, you're obviously leveraging some of the skills that you learned in your previous career, but I mean, can you ever see yourself going back into finance?
Yeah, listen, it's an interesting question. I mean, we definitely, I think we're luckily in a position now where I have a team and a head office. And so one of the big things I've learned is knowing where you're weak, which is actually a tough thing to actually digest and understand. In the start, you've got to do everything yourself, and that's the gig. That's just the deal. We got this business to a position now where we need to create a sustainable business, and there's a big opportunity. And so understanding where I was weak was difficult for me, but it's so important, because you plug those holes with guys that love the things that you hate. And that's really been a huge learning curve for me, and something that's helped us tremendously. And so what I'm really trying to say is that I've been able to hone in on my wheelhouse and my skills and add value in the business in that area. And so Smart Foods is essentially an accumulation of 4 mergers and acquisition deals. We bought these restaurants. We haven't started any restaurants. And so in that process, there's some deal making and finances and valuation and all the things that I've learned. So it's very different. Instead of getting, you know, an annual report produced by, you know, a whole host of a full finance team, you know, you have to scramble around and get the numbers, but the concepts were there. So I've been able to use a lot of my insights from my previous life. So that's been really valuable for us, and added a bit of value. And so we'll continue to do that. And then the other area is we collect a lot of data in our business. And so I'm essentially sitting at the top, looking and analyzing the business and looking for key points and key leverage points to improve or double down on, or ideas. And so I actually spend a lot of my time analyzing the results of the business. Because we've set up this platform, everything is live, and I can see the full lens of the business across multiple data sources. And so I'm very happy in my job because it's quite close to, you know, my previous life, which is my, you know, very limited skill set, I think. They actually call me the spreadsheet. So,
okay.
So thankfully, we've got great other people with a bit more, you know, personality and understanding of branding and food and operations and HR. There's a whole lot of other areas. So I'm very fortunate and grateful that I'm able to stick to my wheelhouse. So yeah, I think we kind of creating this holding company, and you know, maybe long term, I guess if I go super bull case, one day I can be a listed CEO, and we'll meet the analysts coming to our presentations. That would be super cool, and we'll be able to communicate to them in a language that they understand. That is completely off the table. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, and you know, we just focus on today and improving our customer satisfaction today as best as we can. So yeah, who knows where we end up.
Yeah, epic. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, sorry, I feel like I've been going in here on the questions, but I'm a bit inspired, Dan. I know, but
that's why we're using the infectious fears hashtag.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, and I mean, even sort of, this is cool because it sort of follows on from the last point as well. You had this huge career switch, like an industry switch as well, and now we're seeing what you're doing with Smart Foods and with Smarty, and you guys have got sort of two different ventures going on at the moment. You know, on the tech side for restaurants, I'd love for you to explain a little bit more about what you guys are doing there with Smarty.
Yeah. Again, it's crazy how the cookies crumbled. I guess we've just remained fluid and done what's best for our business, and you know, you end up in places you could never imagine. But we're in a position now where it's looking really exciting. I think we knew that in order for us to create a scalable business, it's an intense business. It's really hard. I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant or run a restaurant. I learned the hard way. It's intense. It's 7 days a week. It's very different to asset management. You know, you're up early. The kitchen opens at 5:30 in the morning. Some of the last stores are closing near midnight, and it's 7 days a week. The word is relentless. And so I had a very clear understanding of what it takes to run it because I did it myself. I took away all the, you know, all the status symbols that I had or didn't have, and just got in there and understood how it was. Through that experience, it was clear to me that technology would be a big enabler to help us. The amount of data that you see, I remember being so frustrated because I'd get home from work, just finished a stock take, absolutely dead, and I would, you know, I would open my email because it was something I hadn't done the whole day, and there was just, you know, reams and reams of different data sources from all the suppliers. And I remember thinking, wow, I don't even know, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy to look at this data. Imagine what insights I could get from this data, you know, obviously given my background. And I remember being frustrated, and that led me to always, where possible, double down on technology and use it as an enabler in this industry to help us scale these businesses. So we made that sort of philosophy decision quite early. Where we sit today with Smarty is quite interesting. So we came up with a system where we needed to incentivize and motivate our staff to ensure that customer satisfaction was as high as it possibly could be. The simple economics are, if you don't have customer satisfaction, if you think of the big brands, Nando's, 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐫𝐲, even KFC, McDonald's, these guys have delivered a consistent experience over a long period of time. And if you break that down, that comes down to being consistent every single day. And if you break down the day, in our business, it's a high volume business. We do between 100 and 300 meals every single day. But the interesting thing with our business is that each meal is its own copy of the product. It's not like you can push a button and make 300 t-shirts. which is very different in a business like fashion. You know, if I go in and buy the t-shirt's going to be the same as the next guy. Whereas with food, you have to recreate the meal every single time. And when I understood that, I thought, well, if we want to, in 30 years' time, be a big brand, you work out how many photocopies of the product you've got to make. And if you to create customer and brand equity, you've got to get that photocopy ratio as close to 100% perfect as possible. Then you throw in the fact that it's tiring, it's difficult, customers are difficult. The staff we work with have an incredibly difficult life. That's something else that I've learned in this country, and it really brought a fresh lens about what it takes to deliver these products. And you understand some of their challenges that they face. And so not only by the time they get to work, there's already a lot of challenges. Then they go through the day. And so you can see that to deliver these high probability of 100% photocopies is very difficult. And so the one option that I had was to hire really expensive managers. And so that is a solution that's worked. If you go to your favorite family restaurant, the owner sitting there, he's over the meal, and it works. And that's awesome, and that's a wonderful model. But that's not the model that's going to help us scale to 300 restaurants. And so I couldn't go there. Also, we didn't have the money, right? We were a startup. We're bootstrapping, we're hustling. And so we couldn't go that route. And so I had to come up with a solution. And so we came up with an idea to quantify the staff performance. Just get an understanding of how they're doing. Other than visually walking into a store meeting and chatting to them, let's get an actual score of what they're doing. And then let's use that score to incentivize them and get them thinking the same way that I'm thinking. Because they're not thinking like, they're just doing their job, you know. They're great people and they want to do the best, but let's get them really pumped up to get to 100% success rate on the photocopies. And so we were able to collect the data thanks to all the advances in technology, and we were able to collect this data, and then we were able to gamify it and present the information in a fun, easy to digest way for the staff. And they started to want to get to that 100% photocopy. And so what we saw was a radical change in behavior in our staff's culture and their mindset. They were allowed to prosper and they were rewarded for doing good work. That was also quite powerful.
Yeah.
And most importantly for me as the owner, we saw our customer satisfaction go through the roof and our business was vastly better off. And this was all done automatically without me working harder and without me employing more managers. And so it's a really powerful concept. And I think the first point is we've used it very successfully inside our business and we use it intimately. And now we're at the stage of commercializing pieces of it and looking to empower other restaurant owners to help them succeed and employ more people and make more money and live a better life. So it's quite cool. We're super early and we're launching it to the market now. But yeah, that's kind of how we got to this juncture.
Like saying increased employee satisfaction, increased customer satisfaction, probably better employee retention, more customer loyalty without actually working harder.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
Dude, like steroids for restaurants.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, I love it. I'm super biased, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I always say that the evidence will suggest. Yeah. The evidence will suggest the market is an honest place, and let's see what the market says. You know, the market will tell us if they see it the way I do, and then you know we've got to be like a lean startup and adjust and adapt and learn. And so we're going to in a very exciting phase now where we want to get to the market, see the results. I'm almost certain there's going to be changes and reiterations and things we have to learn. It's definitely not this crystal ball finished product, but we're definitely in a position to get it out there. And yeah, the goal is to see these restaurants improve and attack some of those benefits that you mentioned.
Nice. And look, I mean, just sort of thinking about, I know you said you're very early into this process, right? And I'm sure you've got a bunch of ideal clients or prospects lined up, but I mean, what is your idea at the moment? You know, from a marketing background, my thought is always like, how are you going to get clients? You know, what sort of approaches do you think you guys are going to be leveraging to try and bring people into Smarty? Like, I mean, you've got an excellent use case.
Yeah. So I need some help on that one, and so chatting to you guys does help me with that. So I think, you know, we're going to go old school. I'm able to communicate the concept well because I use it and know it intimately, and we're going to double down on that use case because that's very rare for a tech startup to have that use case. Smart Foods is essentially the first client already of Smarty, and so they're two separate entities, and Smart Foods is the first client, and we've got great data to validate that. And so, yeah, we're going to run multiple strategies, but one of them will be to go old school. I've met a lot of people in the industry over the years, and so we'll lean on our network and reach out and just have an open, honest conversation. We're looking for friendly clients. We're looking, the product is not the finished version. It's definitely a beta product, but the product is definitely able to add value, and it's definitely ready to be brought into a different business. Just for perspective, we launched Smarty internally in 2020. So we've been very particular about this, and so this move from internally using it and commercializing has been taken with the respect it deserves, because when you start to approach other businesses, you've got to deliver, and you've got to add value for them. So yeah, we'll go old school on it, and meet our contacts. We have a very clear understanding of which brands are out there. I think the product dramatically gets more valuable the more stores you have. And so, yeah, I think there'll be an opportunity when we're ready for some enterprise-sized clients, but we're going to start small and go for your mom and pop, smaller 1 or 2 sites, 3 sites, and the goal will be to get them performing well and help them scale, and get to those, you know, come those future brands that we haven't even heard of yet. So I think I like that story. There's a concept we really like called fueling the rebels. So yes, you can be a rebel and fight each other, and the rebels will come and go. There will always be new restaurants. There will always be new concepts, but we can provide a tool to help those rebels succeed and win and prosper, and take on the bigger guys using, you know, much cheaper cost and less capital. And that's really how disruption works. So we want to be a part of that mission. So we're going to go old school on it. And yeah, we've got a few other things. There's some PR stuff, some articles we're putting out. I'll do some stuff on LinkedIn, of course, with you guys and some other people. So yeah, we just need to get the message out there and show the product.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this isn't exactly the right platform for it, but I'd love to see a demo. I'd love for you to, maybe another call, and you can just take us through what your dashboard looks like.
Yeah,
because it's fascinating. The whole models like fills me with enthusiasm. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, the door's open, Taylor.
Cool.
I've got I've got a question. I'm just assuming it dramatically decreased your stress levels, Callan. Using Smarty.
Yeah, listen.
So, could you please paint out a picture of, like, before using Smarty, like what your day or experience was, and then after, what it's like now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. It's quite close to my heart, because in the early days there was a lot going on, and it was super difficult to deliver customer satisfaction that I thought we deserved and I knew we needed. It was hard. It's quite structural. You need to get a lot of things right to get your burrito that you've ordered at 3:15 on a Tuesday. And a relentless game, you know, as I said. So there was a lot of low points where I may not be working one of the nights and I'd get a 1-star review on Google. And it was super tough because, you know, we built the brands, the marketing was great, we built the stores looked great. The central kitchen's got its recipes, and they'd manufactured and delivered, and everyone had done their work. But that one photocopy, that one meal at 2:15 or 3 on a Tuesday, staff member just got a message from their partner saying they'd been robbed, and they weren't attentive and they forgot your guacamole. You, of course, rightly so, as a customer, get home, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, and we're available for this. You put a 1-star out there to the world and you're not happy, and that's the deal. It's a tough game.
But look,
and it was really tough because I felt, I guess a bit, early on in the journey, I was like, this is tough, man, because I'm doing so much work and I don't feel like we're getting the scoreboards not reflecting the practices. You're a rugby guy, you know that concept, you're not getting, and that's really tough. So those are some of the dark moments, and that led me to, like in anything in life, you've got choices. You can either cry about it and complain, or you can put your heads together and solve it and understand the root cause and solve it. And so, part of those dark moments is what fuels you to come up with solutions. So we came up with a solution. Today I've received my morning WhatsApp message with my scores across all my stores. I'm pleased to report that the last 3 days we had 5 stars across all 7 of our stores, 6 of our stores. And that fuels me with an incredible amount of pride, because I know that behind those 5 stars were 300, 400, 500, 600 customers that got 5-star experience. And that's awesome, because that's what we deserve and that's what we need to deliver to create this business. And so I get that information straight away at 7 o'clock every morning in a neat and tidy WhatsApp message, and I'm like, cool, let's carry on with my day, it's all good. And what's really cool and the power of the product is, if there is an issue, I can see exactly what meal, what time, what store, who's working, and what was the tag and the root cause of the review, and I'm triggering my ops team to fix that straight away. And that's the power of the product.
How often does a CEO of a restaurant business know when one meal goes wrong and who was there and who was responsible?
Well, this is where I'm pretty excited, Taylor. So we met, I won't mention the brand's name, big multiple over 300 store chain, and they have no idea. And I can tell you I've got a time series chart of every one of our stores. I can look at it at a group, I can look at it at a brand, I can look at it at a store. Obviously, we've sliced and diced this analysis, back to my point about, using my skills, and we can see crystal clarity what's going on. Crystal. And it's all about this live as well. So yeah, I know what's going on. And so to answer your question, Dan, this is when I say how intimately we use this product. And it allows me to do calls like this, knowing that the show is on track, and we're respecting our shareholders and delivering a great product, and I'm not wasting time, and I can't be accused of not focusing on the ball. And B, we're making our customers happy and our staff happy, and they're getting rewarded for it. So it's a complete game changer.
Awesome. So just on that, when you get your morning report and you see everything's like 5 stars, 3 days, you're pumped. And you, like, I can see you feel flipping happy about it. Does that get back to like the employees? Do they get that sort of sense like, hey, we hit 5 stars like 3 days 100%. In a row, smashing it?
Awesome. Do you guys don't live in South Africa anymore? Do you remember Discovery? I don't know if you guys did the weekend.
Yeah, I'm still around. Okay. But yeah, Discovery Bank, Discovery Insurance.
I literally changed my life to make sure I have enough points to get the free Vita coffee once a week. So that's a powerful concept. So it turns out I'm potentially a lower cost, person to insure from a medical point of view. So it's all about the game and being transparent and notifying the staff. And this is where the product's called your virtual store manager, because we're replacing what a manager would do through the system in the game. And so the staff get that same result. They high-five each other because they're on track for the reward. And the converse happens if it's bad. And they can then, it's self-regulated, and solve and understand. We give them clarity on what caused the problem, plus who was on duty. So it's like, guys, you're hurting us. The team's hurting us because you're performing badly. How do we help you? How do we fix it? And so it's all about changing behavior, and that's the really powerful thing with the product. And that's why we really want to use this to, you know, for it to manage and motivate and create these good outcomes for both the owner, the staff, and the customer. And so that's exactly how it works.
Must make performance review meetings so quick and easy.
Yeah. We don't need to have them.
It's
just we you know, it's not even a discussion. It's live.
It's continuous.
It's continuous, and that's how it should be. And yeah, we've got a really big concept in the business that the customer, the deal is making the customer happy. There's no other way through this. And so, the better, more happy we make the customer, the better our chances are. The rest you can solve. I say that with respect, of course, but you're dead if you don't make the customer happy. Just think of yourselves. You're not ordering from a place that's let you down once, maybe twice, 3 times, it's over. That's the deal. There's 1,000 other options.
The customer's fickle too.
Like,
but not to shit on the customer, but someone is far more likely to have a bad experience and give a company a 1-star Google rating than they are to have 5 good experiences and give it a 5-star rating once.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, you know, loss aversion. We're more sensitive to losing than we are to winning. So 100%.
Kahneman's first key there.
100%. So we've got to remove 1 stars. That's the key.
I've got the next point on that. So just wanted to touch on, by using the software, Callan, you can actually be a CEO. I think a lot of CEOs, they're just fires, and you put in those out and you don't actually get a chance to steer the business, right? And now one of the things you're doing, steering and growing the business, is now targeting people who aren't in your restaurant, who are around your restaurants, and getting into the corporate. So maybe you could tell us, like, how did you arrive at that idea, and a bit more about Stereopods.
Yeah, so that's another part of, so under Smart Foods there's a few different avenues. Yeah, I think as a leader, COVID was a big game changer for anyone managing a staff. It's a completely different world to before COVID, and obviously referring to the work from home concept. And there's been a hell of a lot of great benefits from that, and you guys can attest to that yourselves. But we found as our own business, it's been challenging creating culture and team buy-in when everyone's working from home. And so overridingly, I think there's this hybrid approach where I think, and this is my opinion, that there's a combination of working from home and being in the office and getting across key ideas and having key meetings. And it looks like, from our experience and a lot of the CEOs we've chatted to, that's the optimal, you know, outcome post-COVID. And inside that world, if you believe that lens, it's challenging for a CEO to incentivize staff to come into the office for many reasons. And one of the reasons we found, based on some feedback, was sorting out, maintaining a healthy lifestyle of eating. Generally, you can only eat what's around your office. And yeah, if you happen to live in the city center, or, you know, on a high foot traffic area, I'm sure there's going to be quite a few options. But if you happen to be a manufacturer and you live in an industrial area, you're not going to have any great options. And so your alternative then is Uber Eats, which we've certainly found is a painful experience and more expensive, and it's really tough. So we understood that CEOs have a little bit of a problem to motivate and maintain their culture. And we found that, given our infrastructure of having a central kitchen and having a network of restaurants, is that we can actually put a solution together to solve this and really change that power landscape and give the power back to the CEO by giving them something to install into the office that motivates staff and makes staff happy and gets them into the office. And the way we do that, and the way we bring in that to the market, is through our Stereopod. And what we've come up with is we design and install a beautifully looking pod into your office. It's a feature. It's something you'll display in your office and be proud to display. And inside the pod is Italian bean-to-cup coffee machine, and so you can get barista-style coffee for a fraction of the price. We do your brand on the coffee sleeve, so when you have VIP guests, you can, deliver a good experience for your clients in your office. But your staff can use and have great coffee at a fraction of the price for what we're paying at the coffee shop down the road. So that's the first leg to the solution. Second leg, because you've installed the stereo pod, we give you access to our online food delivery platform across the suite of our brands. And so we're now able to really economically save you the challenge of what you're going to eat, and we allow the CEO to empower a wellness focused eating lifestyle in the office. And what happens is you scan a QR code that sits on the stereo pod, you look at the menu, you place your order, and we deliver the food onto the pod. There's like a food delivery station on the pod. And so the thinking is you literally order at your desk and you walk a couple steps and get your piping hot, quality, healthy, considered takeaway, and it's all done inside your office. And so we're able to solve some of the big challenges that workforces face. And really, the goal is to empower the CEO and let him be proud to install this, A, because it looks nice, but B, it's really making the staff happy and bringing them satisfaction, promoting a healthy eating lifestyle, which helps productivity and gets the people, a little bit more stoked about being inside the office. So it's a really cool solution. We're bringing that to the market now as well. Yeah, we're looking forward to getting some feedback. I think we probably got our first couple clients we're installing in the next month, so it's really exciting. And yeah, I think it can grow the stereo community, get people tasting our food, enjoying the products, and then maybe visiting one of our stores on the weekend. But most importantly, create something, a little bit of an X factor inside the offices, and give CEOs a little bit of the power back, and give them a tool to get really what they want, is that optimal hybrid working solution with their staff happy and inside their offices.
Awesome. Is there the stereo? Sorry, Taylor. So you're about to go there. Callan, I'm just wondering, if I'm in the office and I order my food through stereo pod, the loyalty programs, like that's all linked, right?
Yeah, so you'll become a loyalty member automatically. You have a choice to opt out, but you get your points, and you can then spend those points on your next order or potentially in one of our stores. So we're really trying to create a community here with our loyalty and our different products, where we're trying to promote a lifestyle that is focused on considered food when you're not wanting to cook, when you can't go to restaurants. And we kind of delivering those products to this community in different shapes and forms that suits them best.
And one more quick one from me, Taylor, on that.
No, go for it.
If it's late, sorry, Callan, if it's late in the evening and I've had my lunch from stereo, but like also I'm going home and I want to get some food for my wife or my housemate, can I order like my food, get it delivered to the office, take it home?
Yeah, so the reality is we're not Uber Eats, so we're not promising live delivery. We're never going to compete with that. So what we do to offset that is we've got scheduled delivery slots. And so we'll promise that you place your order by 11, you'll get your food between 12 and 12:30. I think once we look further down the road, we can add those slots as we start to get a bit of scale. And I would have to agree with you, we can definitely push a whole nother meal, which would be dinner for the family, and on a later slot. So the short answer is for our MVP, which we bring into the market now, we're going to just lower the constraints, but look to expand the offering as we get into it a little bit. So it's a great shout, and yeah, we agree with you that would be a cool idea.
Wow. If I can just sum up, we got Callan Williamson from Smart Foods. Smart Foods and Smarty are like, I think at the end of the day, Smart Foods is clever, right? You're solving processes and system situations in restaurants. You are creating a product that consistently satisfies your customer. You've got a platform that now encourages your staff to work and perform better. You're now branching into completely different sectors through software as a service and into corporate solving HR problems and culture problems. I cannot wait to see what you guys actually come up with next. This is so inspiring, and yeah, I really appreciate your time coming in. I don't know how much more you have, because I'm keen to sit around and still shoot the breeze. But really, it's been incredible to have you on the show. It's just it's got me filled with ideas going into my next few calls today.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Taylor and Dan. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to chat to you guys. And yeah, this feels right. So let's keep the chat up and stay in touch. And I'm sure nothing bad can come from that.
You know, what'll be cool is getting you on here again in like a month, or once you've launched stereo and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm hopefully not. I'm crying, like saying, "Oh, it's been a disaster." all that rubbish I spoke about hasn't materialized. So yeah, I just, it's easy to talk, man, and it's, yeah, that's why in a month's time, if I had a genie, like, it's critical that we deliver and people validate these ideas. That's the only thing that counts. Yes, it's cool to come up with them, and we'll test and change and edit, but the market tells you if it's right or wrong. And yeah, so if I had one wish, it would be to get the validation from the external world.
Well, I mean, thinking about that, I suppose if we're going to do something risky, there's always like a high potential of failure. I mean, considering like where you started out, you know, as a finance professional and moving into a totally different industry, I'm sure there's plenty of failures. What's your approach to failure? Because it's always going to happen. How do you personally like to deal with it?
Yeah, listen, I think it's just part of the game. This game is different to the corporate game. It's a different sport. Yes, there's some parallels, you know, but it's a completely different game. And it took me a while to realize that a successful outcome is going to be a combination or an accumulation of failures that are fixed correctly and adjusted correctly. And one of those solutions may be to stop. That might be the right adjustment or the right correction. So I think it's been critical. We're quite systematic in our assessment. So Ray Dalio is someone we look up to massively, and he's got a really good checklist. And so it's about understanding the failure, knowing that you're in a safe environment. This is not a toxic environment where we can't talk about bad things, which took us a while to learn as a company. Knowing that you're in a safe environment, you've got to understand what the obstacles were, and understand, most importantly, what the root causes of those obstacles were. When you do that work properly, you can then think about solving the root causes. Too often, I made many mistakes where failure, I jump to solution. And again, my partner Brendan's been incredible. He has like, slow down, do the work, understand the obstacles, understand the root causes, then race off to execution. And what you find is that delay that you took by doing the work of understanding the root causes, there's a little bit of stress because you're like, I haven't fixed it fast enough. I don't have time. I've got to fix it. Your solution is so much more productive that you actually end up so far ahead of racing into solving the solution straight away without actually doing the work. So that's kind of how we do it. And then there's also some personal stuff, man. You've got to be tough, and you've got to be resilient, and you've got to have good support. You know, again, my wife's massive there. My friends have been massive there. Your network's important. And ultimately, given the journey, you know, if that source or that root idea and that purpose, if it doesn't align with you as a human being on this planet, you're not going to have the resilience to persevere, because what is guaranteed is the failure will come and the challenges will come. That's for sure. And so when you need to dig deep and go to the next levels, if that source of idea and if that doesn't resonate with your purpose and it's not really what you are about and what you're on this planet for, you're not going to have the bandwidth to push through. So I think it's a combination of being systematic and understanding the failures, but like structurally, if you're not in the right place, you're not going to be able to get through. I don't know how you do it. So yeah, it's a combination of those things.
Love that.
That was power at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Because I mean, yeah, I think that's just it. Like, no matter what you do, you're gonna end up facing some obstacles. And where what really communicated over to me there is that the environment you put yourself in is so important. The people you surround yourself with, the way that they respond to your failures, and whether they pick you up or if they put you down.
100%.
And then I think your point about taking a bit of time to understand those failures is important too. Like, I had a mentor a while ago always just used to say, fail forwards.
Correct.
Like, or you may as well fall on your face, because it's easier to get up than getting up off your ass.
Correct.
Yeah, like, I mean, being in marketing and having worked in agencies for so long, you know, like you often come into situations where you just got to go and put out a fire. You just got to make sure that whatever the thing is fixed. But you got to understand why it went wrong.
Yeah. Listen, we definitely have those as well. Like there's like when the kitchen's burning down, you could be sitting like pulling up a spreadsheet going, what do we do? Like there's definitely a bit of that. But on the big structural, on the big things where you have a chance to take, I suggest take a bit of time to get to the root cause.
Awesome. I think there's so much to take away from you, Callan. It's been so cool to know you from the start of my life, catch up now. And I think people, I mean, whether they're studying, running restaurants, working in investments, career change, you drop some gems here. And I know you're not setting out to do that. You're just being humble and talking about smart foods. But we are super pumped to have had you on here talking about these things. And I'm sure people are going to enjoy hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, and that's coming from you, that means the world. So thank you so much again for having me, and Taylor as well. You guys are doing super cool things, and I wouldn't have been on here if you didn't start this venture with your guys' podcast. So it's a mutual admiration, absolutely.
Like, man, I think we're going to actually need to switch up the format. We're going to need to have you back in a few months' time when things are going well. We're going to need to carve out 3 hours, because we didn't even get to personal stuff. I don't even know what you like to do in your free time or anything like that.
What free time?
No, fair enough. But I mean, you do some push-ups, so we can at least go somewhere.